Welcome to the Baby Steps podcast. I am back and better. This is actually our first episode of this podcast. I have decided to change things up a little bit, and tonight we are going to be doing closing shift. What does that mean? Some people have been like, what is closing shift? Closing shift is closing your kitchen or any space in your house before you go to bed. And that's what I've been doing. One of the things that I've been working on is being a little bit more disciplined in multiple areas of my life. And I've been realizing it really adds up. And the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so getting consistent in like one or two things makes it spread, and you just become a consistent queen. So tonight I'm going to be doing a little closing shift. I'm going to be cleaning up. First things first, little hack for you all. If you order Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatever you take out, if you order takeout more than twice a week, this is for you. Some people think it's a super luxury to have a chef bring you food. It is. But at the same time, if you really think about it, having a chef is better than Uber Eats, and it costs about the same amount. At least in my case, I used to order, because of this stage of my life, I used to order out, take out multiple times a week. And I realized, wow, this stuff isn't even all that healthy. And I'm spending a lot of money, like $100 an order on it. And I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can find a chef that can make me healthy meals that will help support my goals, that has comparable price to take out, and that will save me a lot of time. And even if it's just a couple meals a week, it can make a huge difference in your schedule, allowing you to kind of freeing you up to do other things aside from staying in the kitchen all day. That's what a lot of us ladies do. We stay in the kitchen, cooking up, doing our thing, taking care of our family, feeding our families. Usually by the time you're done making breakfast, it's time to heat up lunch. And so because I've been in a postpartum period, I'm now 8 months postpartum, plus getting the business, the app, my Grow with Joe app, and YouTube and everything kind of up and on its feet, since I do have a little bit of a hiatus. I have 3 babies now. 3, yes, it's a handful, and they're 5 and under. I literally was just telling Mary today, can you believe that we had 3 babies in the span of 5 years? I just kind of laughed to myself because it's kind of insane, but people do it all the time. But yeah, so being in this season of learning motherhood in new ways every single day with all 3 of the ages. I have a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. And I feel like it's a never-ending learning curve. And so doing that while running the business, while being a good mom, being a good wife, and, showing up on social media, it's been a lot on my plate. And then also just like learning about myself. I feel like every postpartum, I definitely come into a new version of me. And I always treat it as a better version of me that's blooming, that's blossoming, that's coming back to life. But it also is kind of strenuous on how you feel about yourself, your identity, who you are, going through all these stages of hormonal changes and all that. So dealing with all of that, and I'm sure many of you are going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing. Dealing with all of that has been quite the challenge. And so taking one thing off of my plate, like making a decision to get a chef to do some of our meals, and she does some of our groceries as well. So she'll get stuff for breakfast for us, like avocados, bananas, eggs, blueberries, things that my family often eats. And she just re-ups us every week, and it's just so helpful. It makes my life a lot easier, and I'm not ordering takeout every single day, and I'm paying about the same amount as if I were to order takeout. Now, it's not something that I'm going to do forever. It is somewhat of a luxury, but it has saved me a lot in terms of time and stress and my mental health has been really much better than the last 2 postpartums. Actually, Amaya's postpartum was pretty good for my mental health, but it's allowed me to just think about other things, which has been very helpful. I do love cooking though. I love cooking, and I cook every morning for the kids. I make them a very deluxe breakfast, but having that taken off my plate is amazing. But today, what I want to talk about is discipline via devotion. And I want to talk about how to actually reach your goals this year, how to make a change in your life that is sustainable, not something that you make a goal in January, you make a goal at the beginning of the month, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, a resolution, I'm going to do this, and then you just lose motivation, and then you forget about it, and then by the end of the year, you're like, I set out to do that, but I never really did it. So today I want to talk a little bit about that with you ladies, and just kind of share my thoughts, what I've been learning over the last month, I would say. At the beginning of January, at the very end of January, for New Year's, I was very sick, like so sick, like in bed sick every day for like 3 days. And that, for those of you who have young babies, you know how hard that is. I'm so thankful to God that I have help. I have my mother-in-law helping us. I also have a babysitter that helps us, comes and helps us during the week. This made a huge difference for me, and thank God for them, because I would have not survived that flu. I don't know how many of you got the super flu. I heard a lot of people got it all across the States, all across Canada as well. I don't know about in other countries, but the super flu, there were 3 flus going on all at once. I don't know if it's still happening. I have heard some of my friends saying that they're, got a bit of a cold lately. But I had that, and it was so bad, and I was kind of sad because I was so excited about the new year. I was like, oh, it's going to be such a great year, as we always do. We always are like, oh, it's going to be a great year. Even if we don't have the motto, new year, new me, even if we want to be the same me, but just like a little bit better, we're always like, it's going to be a great year. And then I was hit with this flu, and I was like, wow, New Year's, I went to bed at 9:30, probably 10. And at the same time, I've also been going through the whole sleep regressions and, teaching Gigi to sleep in her own environment. And it's been a whole thing. And then after I got sick, for the first 2 weeks of January, my kids were sick. They got sick one after the other. Thank God Larry was totally fine pretty much throughout the entire time. After we all recovered, he got a bit of a headache for a while, but aside from that, he was doing really well. And I'm like, no fair. Who else's husband also evades sickness just all the time? I don't know what it is. I used to always look at my mom, and my mom would always I'd be like, how do we always get sick and she never gets sick? She would always just be there for us and be strong. And I'm like, I've been getting sick, girl. I get sick when my kids get sick. I've been actually considering getting first of all, some blood work done to see what I need, even though I do copious amounts of blood work when I'm pregnant. But getting blood work done, and then also getting my IV, vitamins through IV. I'll let you guys know how that goes. So I was sick, the kids were sick. And when your kids are sick, I don't know about you guys, but especially when they're really, really sick, you feel like you're in a completely different universe. Like nothing, the rules of the world do not apply anymore. You are in your own little bubble, going through your own thing, feeling like nobody else is going through it but you. Gigi got really sick, and when a little baby's sick, it's like scary. Like I was in fight or flight for days at a time, literally only sleeping on the sitting up couch, like the recliner couch that we have, for only like 3 hours out of the night sleeping. And the rest of the time I would be awake, like making sure that she's breathing because she had somewhat of a croup thing. So scary with babies. And then Amaya got sick. She's a little, I would call her a little gangster, if that wasn't such a weird connotation, but she takes sickness so well. I'm very proud of her and her immune system. She gets sick, but she doesn't really let it bother her too much. She just asks to go to sleep more often and is a little bit more emotional. During that period, they were all super emotional, which was extremely challenging on us, but we made it through by the grace of God. And then Kaizen, when he got sick, ooh, he was so sick that one day he woke up and he couldn't walk. His calves were so sore. I was worried that it was something septic. So I was like, let's take him to emergency because I don't want to risk like an infection getting into his blood and then we wait until it's too late. So we took him there. He was fine. But they did increase his hydration through IV. And they said his inflammation markers were really high. So just to keep him resting and hydrated, just the typical things. But I'm glad I went because it was peace of mind for me. So that all happened in the span of like 2.5 weeks. And I realized, wow, what a start to the year. What a start to the year. And I was like, how do I adjust so that I can adjust my expectations and actually reach my goals, not only this year, but like this month. I had a lot of things planned in terms of content creation. I wanted to do a little bit of a shift in the way that I was creating content. And one of the best things that I did for myself was starting to go to morning prayer. We had 21 days of morning prayer at our church, which was such a beautiful thing. I've never done that before, but I was like, you know what, let me start the year because I want to be so used by God. I want God to just be glorified. That was my number one goal for this year. I want God to use me in the most capacity that he possibly can. And just for me to surrender to him. And during those 21 days of prayer, it completely changed. God just like came and like lit a fire in my soul and completely broke so many chains of bondage. My prayer was, God, if there's anything in me that is not of you, take it out. I don't want it. And God broke so many things in me. One thing was my things that I didn't even know I needed out of me. God took it out of me and just like threw it to the depths. But one thing was I wouldn't say I was body conscious before, but I was very aware of, how much I weighed, not necessarily in terms of number on a scale, because I wouldn't weigh myself that often, but how I looked, how I weighed. I would be worried about people thinking that, when I'm not pregnant, that I am pregnant, things like that, like, oh, I'm bloated, thoughts like that. To me now, when I think of it, I'm like, wow, why did I think like that? But it's because God took that and he was like, no, this is not of me. You don't need to be thinking of your body like that. Your body is a vessel. Yes, steward it correctly. Take care of it. But I realized over the 2-3 weeks that I was doing this morning prayer, less and less and less and less, I was looking at my body in the mirror and like trying to size it up and see what it looked like. Less and less and less I was doing that. Less and less and less I was thinking about how I appeared, my physical appearance in the social media content I was creating. Less and less and less. And I was like, I realized it after. I was like, wow, God, that really wasn't of you. That really was something that I was holding on to. There were multiple things that changed inside of me. And that first step of discipline, because morning prayer was not easy to go to. Morning prayer was at 6:30 every morning at the church. And For those of you who have 8-month-olds, unless your babies are perfect little angels that are sleeping through the night, you know that there are at least 3 wakings a night. Some nights Gigi would wake up every single hour, you know, for gas or whatever's going on that night. Some nights she would wake up 5 times. Sometimes she'd wake up 3 times. And, you know, I still was like, no, I want to stay committed to this. I want to stay disciplined in this. No matter how much sleep I get, I want to make sure that I'm at least showing up for this. The rest of the day can go however it wants to go, but I'm going to show up for morning prayer. And that really changed something in me. It made me realize that I do have the power. I do have the self-control. I do have the ability to keep showing up no matter what the circumstances are. And that kind of planted a seed. It planted a very important seed in my mind and in my heart. And beyond the transformation that I got that started from the inside and went outward, I was able to understand that God has given me, like the verse says, God has given me a spirit of power, of love, and of self-control, not of fear. So that really rang true during that time. And it made me realize that reaching your goals is such a beautiful thing. It's such a grand thing. It's such a, wow. But the journey of getting there, the journey of finding the discipline and finding the things in your life where you can tighten up on so that you realize what you're truly capable of through God's strength, but realize what you can actually do, how you can show up, how you can realize, wow, okay, I'm a different person because I started and I kept going. That is the impact that changes your life. Because once you realize that you are unstoppable, you don't let your mood control you, you don't let your emotions control you, you don't let the things that easily sway you control you, you realize that you really do have the power. You really are unstoppable. So that was the first thing that kind of came out of that. I since have continued that habit of waking up every morning, early in the morning, whether the kids wake up, because those of you who have kids know when you start to wake up early, they start to wake up with you at the same time. It's like they know. I'm careful to make sure that, you know, I'm very, 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 very quiet. Like tiptoeing around, like, good thing we don't have wood floors down here, but on the stairs we do. So if I need anything for my office, it's like, I gotta be very careful. But even if they wake up or they don't wake up, I get up, do my morning prayer, do some sort of, you know, either my skincare routine or do a walk on my walking pad or do a little workout, a core workout from YouTube, my YouTube channel, Grow with Joe. And I do something for myself in the morning, but first I put God first and then the rest follows. And that has really, really, really made a huge impact on my entire day. Starting my day in surrender, starting my day with discipline, starting my day with, I am taking positive action towards my number one goal this year. My number one goal is to be close to God and have Him use me. And I know He's done that in previous years. I'm walking around aimlessly now because I'm getting excited. I know I've done that in previous years, but not to this capacity. And I know that God has so much more for me. So I'm relentlessly in search of how I can become better and better and better and just follow the plan that God has for my life. So that has been a whole revelation in and of itself, but it also led me to multiple things, realizing that, what else can I become disciplined in? What else can I, push myself a little bit more? Not necessarily going out of my way to be a drill sergeant and, focusing on, I have to make everything perfect or everything correct. Because everybody, those of you, I'm saying a lot of this because I know a lot of moms are watching. Those of you who have kids know that no day is the same when you have kids. Everything is shifting and changing, and depending on the mood of your kids, you know, you got to show up for them in whatever way they need you for that day. So just what can I become disciplined in that I can find some sort of consistency? And I always search for some sort of consistency, especially at this period postpartum, when I'm about 8 to 10 to 1 year postpartum. That's when I'm really realizing that my identity is shifting. The hormone fluctuations aren't as severe. And so I'm realizing, okay, what can I do? What can I actively do to help with my mental health? I have in the past struggled with depression, anxiety, you name it, postpartum. So I think about what can I do to do my part, because we can ask God for guidance. We can ask God for strength. We can ask God for all the things that we need, and He will freely give it to us. But we also have to do our part. And that's where consistency comes in. Discipline through devotion. Devotion as discipline. And I see devotion as not only devotion to God, but also devotion to my husband, devotion to my kids, devotion to myself. And I don't know about you, but the word discipline to me, as a child, growing up, my family, I have 10 siblings. So we were very disciplined. And I understand now that I have kids why we had to be super disciplined, why we had to be very attentive to what our parents needed from us, when they needed it from us. Because I have 3 kids now, only 3 kids. And I'm like, it's chaos if I don't teach them how to take care of themselves according to their age, of course, but teach them how to act right, for lack of better words. Act right, you know? Have respect, use your manners, do your chores. Kaizen has chores. The younger ones don't have chores, but not yet. So discipline, but it was also used in a way of like discipline, like, oh, you need to be disciplined. Like I was spanked as a kid. I was spanked as a kid. Who else was spanked as a kid? I was spanked as a kid. And I would even say when I was younger, oh, I'm glad I was spanked as a kid, or not when I was younger, but like in my university years, I'm glad I was spanked as a kid because it taught me a lot of things. Some people will disagree, but that was the word my parents would use. Oh, you're going to be disciplined, and disciplined meant you're going to get spanked. And so whenever I hear the word discipline, it kind of gives me like a, it makes me feel like, it turned it into something that it wasn't an act of like, I'm going to discipline myself to do something. It was like a discipline is something that is happening to you and is something that you have no control over. So maybe you're having an aha moment right now, realizing that, oh my goodness, all this time, whenever somebody brings up discipline, even as a way of like taking action towards your goals, I kind of recoil from that thought. And I kind of just like, I'm like, no, discipline. And I like rebel against discipline because of the way it was presented to me as a child. And I realized that recently. I realized that I was very resistant to discipline. I wanted to have even in my career, I chose a lifestyle in which I could move freely, do what I need to do, enjoy what I want to enjoy, do things when I want to do things, and not have any real structure or a schedule. And I used to also even, kind of buck up against a schedule because I was like, I want to be able to be free to do what I want to do, not realizing that was hindering me from the freedom that I could have had if I was just disciplined to do certain things at certain times. So I'm saying all that to say that if you feel that cringe feeling of like, discipline, like, I know it's what's required of me, and that's, consistency comes down to discipline, but, I hate the idea of discipline. Maybe you need to reframe it as devotion. Devotion. Devotion sounds more like it comes out of a place of love. It comes out of a place of, I want to do this. This is a act forward. This is me making intentional changes because I'm devoted. I should look up the definition of devotion, because it's like another way we use devotion is when, we're sitting down and reading about the things of God and, meditating on God's word. Devotion, really showing your interest, your want, your, for lack of better words. So I've been reframing my mindset as devotion, rather discipline. And now it's making me like the word discipline. It's making me realize, it's devotion. It's also discipline. It's the same thing, same consistency, different heart. And that right there is what's going to help you reach your goals this year. Discipline, but in the form of devotion. Doing something out of a love for yourself, a love for your God, a love for your family, a love for those around you. Many of us are give. We want to give everything we have, and all the energy we have and all the time we have to everybody else but ourselves. But if we really showed up from a place of devotion, we would realize that we deserve that discipline in our lives as well. We deserve that showing up for ourselves. And so that led me to having a routine, a closing shift routine, or some people say putting the kitchen to bed routine, where every night before bed, instead of me just curling up in my bed and watching a show, I come in the kitchen and I spend 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes putting everything away, washing the dishes, getting the kitchen ready to go to sleep for the night. And then in the morning, I can't even describe how good it feels to walk into a kitchen that is clean. I turn on the dishwasher every night before I go to bed, and that I have clean dishes in the morning that I just put away, and the dishwasher is ready to stack for the day. So all day I'm keeping it kind of tidy so that it doesn't take me hours to do my evening shift. So it makes it easier. And actually a few people are like, why isn't your husband helping you do the closing shift? Honestly, I love my husband so much, and I don't really need him to do it with me. It's not that much work. Usually when I am doing this, he's doing work himself. He's uploading a video, working on his music, working on different things for the family, for ourselves, taking out the trash, doing something else. And it's nice for me to have a few moments, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before bed for me to kind of digress from the day, have some alone time. Sometimes I'll have my headphones on. Oh my goodness, don't you hate it when stuff sticks to a pan? I'll have my headphones on and I will just listen to Bible verses. I'll listen to, that's a major hack. If you want to read your Bible consistently every day, have the Bible app on your phone, and then also use your physical Bible. When you aren't able to use your physical Bible, when you're short on time, maybe you're rocking the baby to sleep or you're doing the dishes, listen to it on your headphones or just listen to it aloud, and it will help you keep you consistent. And then when you do have the time to sit down and just meditate on the word, bring out your physical Bible and take notes. That has changed everything for me. The Bible is so juicy. We're going to talk more about that in another episode of this podcast, but just being able to have some alone time before, all day I just have like people needing things from me, and then just being able to have this time where it's almost like a sacred time. I'll listen to a Bible verse, I'll watch a sermon, I'll listen to some worship music, I'll just be here in silence sometimes. It's golden. So as much as it would be wonderful, no, it wouldn't be wonderful. I do love being around my husband. We're usually around each other a lot, like if not 24/7, like 23/7. He doesn't need to be in the kitchen with me. Some of you ladies were saying, I resent my husband for not helping me in the kitchen. And I get that sentiment, but he does so much around the house. He even, when I don't feel like, or I'm kind of running behind on making breakfast, he'll make breakfast for the family. He has no problem picking up the slack when it comes to the jobs that I consider mine in this house. But yeah, no, I don't need that. I like having this time to myself. I don't know if this pot wants to be washed. She's like, I don't know about tonight. Let me soak. Nope, not tonight, babe. Not tonight. If you guys have any recommendations for better pots or better methods to cook so that it doesn't stick on your pot, let us sister know. Because these eggs especially, yeah, if you have any eggs suggestion for like how to cook the eggs so that they don't stick, let me know. Because this is the only moment that I suffer during this closing shift. But yeah, I think sometimes when you come to a title like this video has or this audio has of like, you know, how to reach your goals this year, how to actually reach your goals or any of that sort, you're kind of waiting for some sort of list of like, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to show up like that, you got to write down your goals. And yes, all those things are great. But I think the main thing you got to change in order for you to reach your goals is your mindset of how you're going to get there, what you expect the journey to be like. Do you expect the journey to be perfect? Do you expect the journey to be, you know, one step after another, a linear path? Or do you expect, you know, things to change, things to shift, frustrations? Do you expect that? Because that's life. That's how it all happens. I've been through many different stages of life. I feel like I've lived many lives, and I'm sure you do too. I feel like I've lived many lives, you know, in my growing up years, my university years, my working for other people years, my moving to Florida years, long distance dating years, in my business building years, my child building years. All of these have, I wouldn't say I'm the wisest person. I'm not that old. You know, wisdom doesn't just depend on your age, but I would say that it's taught me a lot about the journey. It's taught me a lot about taking baby steps, about taking one step at a time, about focusing on the next step. And now that especially now that I've had this revival, this change from God, I've been realizing that, you know, his word, the Bible is the ultimate manual for life. Your word is a lamp unto my feet, a lamp to my feet, a light unto my path. So if you are not every day in God's word, gleaning wisdom from his word, from the juicy stories of the Bible, what are you doing, sis? What are you doing? If you're praying every day, asking God for guidance, and you're not taking time, moments even, and it doesn't have to be like you sitting. I made a reel about this recently. It doesn't have to be you sitting and like in a prayer posture, like waiting for God to speak to you. No, it's having that expectancy. That's another thing I've been learning at the beginning of this year. Having that expectancy of expecting to hear God, expecting for how things are going to happen, expecting, not having high expectations, but having expectations. Because if you just kind of go about life willy-nilly, just being like, whatever happens, happens, that ain't no way to live, girl. You got to have expectancy. Expect things to happen in your favor. Expect, you know, when you speak the word of God into your life, for it to make mountains move. Bible says all you need is faith size of a mustard seed and you can move mountains. That's you realizing that when you have faith, it can grow and grow and grow and grow. But that takes action behind it. That takes devotion. That takes consistency. That takes discipline. Faith alone is enough. But when you have the expectancy and you put the action behind it, that right there is power. So as I finish this closing shift, I just want to let you know that this year is yours. If you're willing to be devoted, if you're willing to have devotion, and instead of focusing on, I gotta be disciplined, focus on how you can be devoted to whatever you want to be devoted to. For me, it's God, my husband, my kids, myself, my business, everything else flows from that. But if you really want to see things happen, find your devotion, find your discipline, find your consistency. Do it in the small things. Do it in the closing shifts. Maybe you'll start doing closing shifts with me now, listening to me talk, yap your ear off. Find your devotion, find your discipline, find those small things that will change how you do everything. And then have expectancy. Expect good things to happen. Speak good things into existence. Think of good things only. Stop letting the world dictate how your emotions turn you and sway you. Too many of us are spending too much time on our phones. That's another big habit that I've integrated over the last few weeks. No more scrolling. Decrease your scrolling. If you have something that you like to come back to, like this podcast, for example, search it up and watch intentionally. But aside from that, don't let your mind be polluted by all the emotions of everybody else, what's happening with them. Search up your favorite things, search up your favorite people, search up the sermons you want to listen to, search up the things that help you think positively. And that's all you need, girl. Decrease your scrolling. Don't let those things sway you here, there, and everywhere. Devotion, discipline, consistency, expectancy. That is how you're going to reach your goals. Now, I love you and I want you to come back. So let me know what you think about this podcast episode and I'll see you in the next one.